I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with Feeder Flash for Tuesday, May the 3rd, brought to you in part by Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma. They do a good job there. My friend Jeff Slatton told me that the devastating fires that they've had this spring across there has really decimated the budgets of the county firefighters. So they are having a benefit at noon today at Beaver County Stockyards. You can view and bid right there on dvauction.com and watch that benefit, but they're going to have that benefit at noon at the sale here today on Tuesday to benefit Beaver County firefighters. And I asked Jeff Slatton, I mean, what kind of a benefit are you looking at having? And he said, well, we've got a goal of raising $100,000. Now that would do something for some small rural volunteer firefighters there, but they're gonna give the money to the county commissioners and let them divvy it up as they need it to fill their needs there. But I wouldn't be surprised if they don't reach $100,000 because he seemed pretty sure of it. But if you guys would like to chip in, help donate to that cause or to watch that proceedings, get on to dvauction.com and watch Beaver County Stockyards here today on Tuesday at noon. They're also going to have about 2,000 head of feeder cattle and about 15 straight loads of yearlings. So big good sale there and a lot of happenings there at Beaver County Stockyards. Feeder board spikes to open the week on Monday, and I mean not just a little bit, a bunch. And I was thinking the same thing that everybody that was texting me was thinking, is I didn't know the board could move that much without a limit moved the preceding day. I don't know where I forgot that, but did look and see that the daily limit on feeder cattle moves is 6 1/4. Well, the August contract was up 580. I mean, that's fantastic. We're not complaining about it, but we just thought that it had to be up the limit like a 450 limit before it went to expanded limits. But you know, it just immediately was 6 1/4 there, I guess. But you know, they change those things. Sometimes we notice that they do it and sometimes we don't. But why did the feeder board go up so much? Well, the only reason we could really see was because of the moisture they've been getting in the corn belt. Corn was down, but it wasn't down, you know, a ton. It was down 10 cents on the July contract. That's not a bunch. It's still sitting over $8 a bushel. But really good moisture throughout the corn belt and in the northern plains and the areas that were the driest. I mean, they may not be out of the drought, but up in that country they've seen a lot of moisture the last 2 or 3 weeks, and it's looking pretty good now. Of course, they're worried about getting a crop in, but if they get a couple of days there with the equipment that they have nowadays, it doesn't take long to get that crop in, and they are looking for a good crop. I also think to myself and others probably too, that corn the last few weeks since the prospective plantings report has been trying to buy back some acres that they said that it lost from beans. And so it's been staying stouter than what the beans were. Of course, beans have been very volatile. But, you know, to try to buy back some more acres so that people would still plant more corn. But now it's getting late enough now. We've had a lot of moisture. And if you were indeed going to plant corn, you probably would have already had your fertilizer purchased and put down and applied and all that kind of thing. So probably not going to see that push anymore going forward. So maybe corn will back down a little bit more, or maybe not go any higher. I don't know, but you wouldn't think a 10-cent loss on your July corn futures would compensate a 580 gain in your August feeder cattle futures. But we couldn't find anything else to blame it on. You know, maybe some of those Chicago traders were reading Time magazine and saw the article in there that talked about Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act. You know, you guys think that we're not serious about this. We've had hearings in both houses of Congress, and we're getting a lot of media attention here. Time magazine, I mean, it ain't what it used to be, but still pretty big deal. And to have an article in there about cattle and beef, that's odd. But they had an article in there talking about the hearings that they had last week about the Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act, and the article itself wasn't terrible. They didn't go to the trouble kind of, researching anything. I don't think the author really knew the difference between feeder cattle and fat cattle, but they did talk a lot about being a bipartisan bill that had a lot of support, and that's another plus. And I tell you what, we just keep getting pats on the backs and pluses and things like that, starting to hear some more people that weren't confident about being pro Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act, but they are starting to jump off the fence and come over on our side now. And if you're one of those people and you realize how important it is for us to have some price discovery and transparency and competitive bidding in your fed cattle arena, if you're having a change of heart, don't just let me know or let your friends know. You've got to get a hold of your U.S. representative. And that's where we need the most help. But you can call in there. They have a hotline you can call in or send an email. Has to be documented. They will know what side you're on and that you called about that or you contacted them about that. But we need all the people to do that we can feel like we'll be having a vote come up sometime this summer. Now, I haven't visited about that because I've been busy talking about that bill, but these food processing fires, and you guys have heard about them, is it a conspiracy or a coincidence? It seems unfathomable that you would have about 20 fires at major food processing facilities scattered all over the country. And a lot of them were like, just guys flying planes into them, supposedly by accident. Of course, some of them were accidents, lightning strike or something like that. But it just seems kind of funny that you would have 20 of them like that. Are they going after our food supply? You would think if they were going after our food supply that they would have hit 20 of the same kind. But I mean, they went from everything from salads to feed processors to just about everything. So it's hard to imagine if they were using their head and they had the whereabouts to get planes to fly into those facilities, that they would be kind of focusing on one certain thing if they're wanting to starve us to death. But we're hearing a lot of stories about everybody worried about food shortages. A lot of it has to do with the invasion over there in Ukraine. They have shut down all their ports at the Ukraine coming out of the to ship out of the Black Sea there. It's just been too much devastation there. They have gotten some, but limited grain shipped out on rail. But the hell of it is, I mentioned a while back that the rail that's coming out of Ukraine going into Poland and places like that is a different size rail. So you can't just keep trucking. You got to stop and move your load over. But they are getting a little bit of that done. I've talked to people that says they've got a good wheat crop going for this year, they think. But I don't think anybody thought that it was going to last this long, have this much death and destruction, and doesn't seem to be getting any better. And I'm not sure what's the whole core reason of this. But it doesn't appear that Putin's going to give in at any point in time there. I want to pass on some news that I heard on Monday afternoon. It was the first sign of it that I heard at all. But I heard that they have had on Monday the last sale at Amarillo Livestock Auction. Now, Amarillo Livestock Auction, that is a historical spot there. It was at once the world's largest at one point in time. And it was one of your biggest feeder cattle auctions in the nation. For many, many years, running from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. I remember when I was a little kid in the 70s, and we lived in northeastern New Mexico up by Clayton. My dad used to trade in and out of Amarillo sale barn, and he would go to Amarillo, and they would sell all day Monday, all day Tuesday, and Wednesday until they got done every week. It was one of your big, big sales. It was on the line going diagonal up north and east. It was Amarillo, Oklahoma City, Springfield at Southwest Regional, and Mexico, Missouri. But Amarillo has not really been a viable cattle auction for probably the last 20 years. I mean, they'd have a sale here and there that wasn't too bad, but it was kind of hard to get to. The facilities are still good. The sale facility is still very good, but the pens out back have been neglected and haven't been kept up, and that was a problem too. We used to grade a lot of delivery cattle there when I worked with USDA. We could do 100 loads there of CME fed cattle deliveries, no problem. We run 3 scales, the ones in the ring. They had some big scales out by the railroad that they used when the original sale barn facility built down or burned down, and they had to move the sale out there kind of under a tent there for a short time. And then they had what they called the sheep scales up there, which was a smaller set of scales. But a lot of memories around Amarillo Livestock Auction. It was the first place that I ever got to sell cattle whenever I started auctioneering. But hate to see Amarillo Livestock Auction go down, but I knew it was inevitable, and I know a lot of you guys are going to have the same kind of feelings I did. Let's talk about your board on Tuesday, or on Monday to start the week, excuse me. June live cattle futures were up 255, closing at 135.20. August up 177 at 137.05. Your back months of live cattle up 97 to up 190. So that was a welcome sight to see on a Monday morning. May feeder cattle up 507 at 161.42. August up 580 at 174.07. That was a shot in the arm to you guys that have yearlings turned out. Your back months of feeder cattle up 4 1/4 to up 545. And I talked about your grains being down, but like I said, the corn was only down 10 cents. I'm going to be talking about your July contract now. Your May contract doesn't have hardly any play in it at all, so everybody's looking to July, but corn was down 10 cents for the July contract, 803.5. Beans for July down 39.5, settling regular trading at 16.45 1/4. Kansas City hard red winter wheat down 7 3/4 cent a bushel at 10.98. Your weighted average on last week's negotiated fed cattle trade in your 5-area feeding region was big. Why was there so much negotiated trade? Was it because there was a lot of eyes on the industry because we were having the hearings last week? Could have been part of it. Because your backers were looking to buy cattle for 2 to 4 weeks out so that they can set this market up for a fall. When we start to get into these bigger numbers of cattle hitting the show list, probably more likely. But 119,800 head in your 5-area feeding region, that's a healthy negotiated trade. If we could have that, we wouldn't be worrying quite so much about this Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act. But that compares to 97,500 previous week, which was pretty good, and the same week a year ago of 58,300, which is what we typically see and what we don't want to get into a normal routine of. But your live steers and heifers last week in the 5-area feeding region ranged in price from $139 to $148. That was $1 to $4 higher. There was only 622 head at $139. There was nearly 1,300 at $148, and everything was shifted higher up into the price range. Weighted average on live steers $143.34, and that was up 32 cents compared to the weighted average the previous week. But that $143.34 compares to your April live cattle board that went off and matured at $138.50. Dang, you'd think it'd get a little closer than that, but whenever your board is below cash, there's really no way to make it come together, because if these packers had long positions, it's not really where they can just demand delivery of it, and it should be that way. They should be able to demand delivery of those cattle to keep that board true. Now, if your board is higher than your cash at maturation there, if it's more than $1 or so, then you'll see people deliver cattle on the board, and then that sucks it back and keeps it together. But it should be the same on the other side too. Your weighted average are on dressed steers and heifers. They ranged in price from $225 to $238. Only 573 head at $225. Nearly 1,300 at $238. Your trend there was steady to $2 higher. Weighted average on dressed steers was $230, $231. That was up just 2 cents from the previous week, but still it was higher. Nationwide, we had negotiated sales of 135,500, biggest we've had in a long, long time. A little over 50,000 of those were for the 2 to 4 week delivery. And that, like I told you, that's what the packers will use, because they'll have those cattle for delivery here in 2 to 4 weeks. Whenever we start running into bigger numbers of market ready cattle, then they'll use those numbers to suck from, set the market up for a fall, and be able to pull $4 or $5 off your market position rather than 1 or 2 at a time like we've been gaining them. But that 50,000 was 37% of the total negotiated trade in the nation of 35,500. Negotiated grid added up to 45,300, and the formulas 273,700. So that's our problem there, guys. No trade at all on Monday. Of course, with the board up, there's no way packers were going to give that much more than what they paid last week, and guys weren't in too big a hurry anyway. Box beef cutout values were higher to start the week. Choice cuts $260-$255. That was up $1.77. Selects at $248.23, up just 26 cents, widening that spread of choice select to just over $14 there. And we are seeing your calves hit the market now. With your calves, cattle that were put on feed, sure enough calves, just big fat calves. We've got the genetics so good now, there's not much else you can do with them. They're too big and too fleshy to go to grazing anywhere, so they go in on feed. Well, that's going to suck our carcass weights down. It's going to suck our grading percentage way back, and we'll probably continue to see a premium paid in the northern plains for your better grading cattle like we have. Like it was sure $5-6 this past week in the southern plains compared to the northern plains, where the cattle just grade that much better. Going to be at Deaf Smith County Ag Day at the old Hereford Sale Barn here today on Tuesday around lunchtime there, if you guys are interested in going to that. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV auction. Late in the day on Monday at 154.15. That was up just 8 cents, but it was on the plus side. Your big high volume Monday sales, Oklahoma National Stockyards in Oklahoma City, 9,600 head. Feeders were steady to $2 higher. Calves were steady to $2 lower on a light test. Stick out sale at Oklahoma City was 118 head of 888 pound yearling feeder steers that bring $153. Now that's about as good as they'll bring anywhere. The market report did say that they marked them Gant as a flag there, but they $7 Gant. The next closest in that weight range was at least $7 back of there, but my goodness, that'd be cutting two, I would say. How about Joplin Regional Stockyards? 6,500 head there is what they estimated, and that was right. Feeders there also steady to $2 higher. Calves a little tougher, $3 to $7 lower. Getting hot and sticky in that area, guys. They've had a lot of moisture there, getting humid, getting hot, and especially for those calves that are unweaned. Yeah, it's nice to have light calves this time of year, and they usually meet good demand, but you still got to get them weaned. And during the wet and cool temperatures, a lot of guys didn't, and a lot of them are just pulling the plug, and they're taking the penalty for that. Stick out deal in Joplin, and it wasn't a load, but I had a couple guys tell me about them, and then saw them later. 39 head, 617 pound stocker steers in Joplin bring 207. Wow. How about some other individual quotes around Callaway Livestock Center in Kingdom City, Missouri? My friend Jack Harrison, that's where I gave the presentation last week, and had a really good stick out deal there. 120 head, 884 pound steers in the midsection of Missouri at 158 and a quarter. Don't forget, they've got their monthly Thursday night cow sale coming up this Thursday, and it is going to be gigantic. Got about 1,000 cows scheduled for that, and just said that the phone just keeps ringing. Was thinking there might be 700 a week ago, then it was 9, now it's 1,000. If you guys want some good quality bred cows, guys, they're going to have a world of them there, probably more than the demand they're going to have. So I would get on that sale on dvauction.com. It's an evening sale. I think they start at 6 in the evening. They may start a little bit sooner. but it'll be a good sale there. How about Faith Livestock Auction on Monday? 95 head, 664 pound steers, bring 191 and a quarter. But the best quote that I saw anywhere on Monday, and your Row Grow top quote for the day, come out of Tri-State Livestock Auction in McCook, Nebraska. 62 head, 847 pound steers, bring 165.35. That's your feeder flash for Tuesday.